Good morning, sir.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to the court in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
What is your name, sir?
Wimbush.
All right. And tell me, what is your relationship to the defendants in this case? Ricardo Wimbush Sr. and Terrian Wimbush.
I'm Ricardo's brother, Terrian's brother-in-law.
Okay, so Ricardo Jr. is your
Nephew.
all right. Is he currently living with you?
Ricardo Jr., no.
Okay. Tell me about, I meant to say Isaiah. So is Isaiah currently living with you?
Yes, he is.
Okay, thank you. My slip of mine. So you're aware of his medical condition?
Yes.
Have you been dealing with Isaiah and his medical condition since he's been living with you?
Yes, I am.
And when did he come to live with you?
In May of 2015.
So when you first received him and in the intervening time, have you had conversations with him about his illness?
Yes.
Are you actively involved in his treatment, such as his receiving medications and so forth?
Yes, I am.
I'm not going to ask you about the cancer or the medical aspect of it, but tell the jury, please, how he talks with you about having the cancer first, and then we'll go through about what he says about the tumor.
He's more anxious as far as, and I think that's in any child when they have to, if they deal with something like that. He kind of talks about not really wanting to, and then he kind of pulls himself back from doing activities in school because of the cancer, because of the cancer itself. But it's from the, not really, you said not to go into the medication or the
Well, not the actual cancer. The medication is something.
okay, so the medication is causes him to be nauseous. So for him, when he becomes nauseous, it's an all-day, sometimes an all-day occurrence for him that it drains him. He's not able to do things that he would normally want to do.
Does the nausea result in vomiting?
Yes.
How frequent?
Up until recently, we probably deal with it twice a week, 2-3 times a week, because of the medication. But now the doctor prescribed to him nausea medication, so it doesn't occur as frequently anymore.
Okay. So you've been getting him the medication that he needed in the dosages that were prescribed by the physician?
Yes.
And has that dosage level that you've been giving him changed?
Yes, it has.
Will you describe that to the jury, please?
When we originally, when Isaiah came to us, he was taking 100 milligrams twice a day. Just recently in October, the dosage was increased to 800 milligrams. So it's 400 milligrams in the morning and then another 400 milligrams at night.
So the difference in dosage, does that affect how he receives the medication or his reaction to it?
It did, and it does, and the 800 milligrams caused more frequent nausea and vomiting. But then there was a subsequent decrease in the dosage to the 600 milligrams in December because the medication caused a drop in his white blood cell count.
Okay. What about the actual, did he go through surgery while he was with you?
Yes, he did.
Tell the jury about, the time building up to the surgery. Did you observe any reaction that he was having?
Once again, it's anxious. He nervous, anxious, apprehensive. He would talk to us about not really wanting to go through the surgery. I don't know of any child that would wish to be cut on. But he was anxious about actually going through that surgery.
What about after the surgery?
After the surgery, he was down for 3 weeks without going to school. And another 3 weeks of really so 6 weeks total of no physical activity, no running, jumping. So basically the things that he loved to do, he couldn't do.
All right. Was there a time that he was not receiving any medication?
Yes, it was about a month in the middle. I wouldn't say in the middle, it was from March of 2016 until October of 2016. The hospital went through a transition, so we were calling the hospital and left message after message. The medication still came because that was done automatically, but once we got to an August time frame, that's when we completely ran out, no subsequent visits to the doctor, and we ended up taking him to the pediatrician. The pediatrician informed us at that point that All Children's Hospital is where he was going, had a changeover to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and that changeover messed up their phone lines. So she advised us to continually call until you actually got a live person. So we called all day until we got someone, made a subsequent visit, and that's when we saw the doctor. And at that point, his tumor had come back.
Okay. During that time, were you actively seeking care?
Yes.
All right. Is he now seeing different physicians than he was before?
Yes, the physician that he had is no longer in that practice, so he is seeing a different physician now, and she, upon review, prescribed to him the 800 milligrams.
Okay. And what was the purpose for increasing it back to 800 milligrams?
The doctors there, they have a review board when it comes to tumors. And in that review board, they talk about the treatment. So her increase was to see if she can get the tumor to shrink again, to see about that subsequent surgery.
Okay. About at what time period was the tumor at its worst? Or the second presentation?
The second, October, between October and November time frame.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 27. Do you recognize this item? Is it a photograph?
Yes, it is.
And what is depicted in the photograph?
It's a picture of the return of the tumor.
All right. Back when was that photograph taken?
October 26th of 2016.
All right. And did you share that with me just this week?
Yes.
Okay. Who took that picture?
My wife did.
All right. And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the tumor at that time?
Yes.
Period? All right. State News Tenders, State Exhibit number 27.
Mr. Wimbush, any objection?
No objection.
Mrs. Wimbush, any objection?
No objection.
All right, 27, States 27 is admitted without any objection from either defendant.
Okay. Approach, Your Honor.
Thank you.
At the time that State's Exhibit number 27 was taken, was he back on 800 milligrams of Glyvac by that time?
Yes.
And this is the tumor they were trying to shrink?
Yes.
Tell me, what's his current state? Is it any better now than it was then?
Actually, a week after being on that medication, the 800 milligrams, it did shrink back down to skin level. And at that point, I received a second call from the doctor's office. She had met with the review board, and she advised that they were not pursuing surgery at that time. And I informed her, I said, great, because the tumor actually shrunk again. She told me that's great news. can reschedule a second visit, and that second visit was scheduled in November.
All right. And as of today, does the tumor look anything like this in Exhibit 27?
No.
All right. Can you describe it to the jury as to its current state today?
It's at skin level. It's still, you still have I would say the blackening of the skin. That's always going to be there, regardless of the tumor. The tumor grows below that. That part is still there, but it's skin level. It's not going out. It's not protruding out anymore. He's able to be a kid.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Wimbush, questions?
No question.
Mrs. Wimbush? I have no questions. All right, thank you. Is this witness excused from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you understand that if he's excused, that he will not be recalled as a witness?
Yes.
All right, sir, you are excused from further testimony. Thank you. Next witness, please.
Hussein? Hussein, too?
Good morning.
Doctor, will you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to the court of matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you.
What is your name
I'm Dr. Saima Hussein.
and your profession?
I'm a pediatrician.
Will you describe to the jury the education and residencies and training that you've had to qualify you for the obligation?
There's 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, and 3 years of residency, specializing in pediatrics.
Could you spell your first and last name for us, please?
Yes, first name is Saima, S-A-I-M-A, and last name is Hussein, H-U-S-S-A-I-N.
Thank you.
All right. How long have you been licensed as a physician in Georgia?
I graduated from residency in 2012, and I've been practicing in Georgia since then.
All right. Is your current practice in pediatrics?
It is, yes.
Have you always practiced in pediatrics?
Yes.
All right. On,
Can we pause for a second? I need all jurors to check their phones to make sure they are not just silent, but turned completely off.
on July 18th, 2014, did you see Ricardo Wimbush Jr.?
Yes, I did.
And where did you see him?
It was at a practice milestone pediatrics indicator.
All right. Now, when he presented to you on that day, can you describe what symptoms, if any, that he relayed to you?
He expressed to me that
This is for the purposes of medical treatment and is not within the hearsay statute.
It does fall within a lawful exception to the hearsay rule, so that objection is overruled.
he expressed to me that he had pain in his legs, knees, and ankles, that he felt tired pretty frequently, and that occasionally after walking for a while he had a little bit of a limp.
Okay. Did you notice, in addition to those that he presented with, did you notice anything on his skin that you...
He did. He had a rash on his skin, and he did say that he had an itchy rash on his skin.
All right, let's talk about that first.
Okay.
What sort of rash did he have?
So on my exam, I determined that it was a fungal rash, and it was on his trunk and his back.
Okay. Describe to us what a fungus rash is.
So it's sort of raised, irritated lesions on the skin. They're dry. They tend to be itchy.
Okay. What are some of the causes of fungal rashes?
Sometimes poor hygiene, sometimes being in a sort of wet clothing or sweaty clothing for a long period of time. Sort of a wet, damp environment can lead to fungal rashes.
Would regular showering and changing of clothes and wearing clean clothes and being outside in less humid environment prevent that?
Yes, and clean clothes as well. He's changing clothes pretty frequently, not in the same attire.
All right. Did you do any blood tests?
I did, yes. I did sort of general screening labs to look for diseases and his nutritional status as well.
All right. What did you find out about his nutritional status?
One of the tests that was abnormal was his vitamin D level. It was significantly low.
Significantly low?
Yes.
Is that common in juveniles?
It is not common unless they are not getting vitamin D from food or from the sun.
So how does the sun provide vitamin D to our body?
Our bodies have a inactive steroid hormone that naturally lives in the skin, and when we are exposed to the sunlight helps the body change it into a vitamin D form that we need.
Okay. So if one receives even some vitamin D in their diet, is that sufficient without any sunlight to provide sufficient vitamin D?
It is not, and the vitamin D test that we do test for two different vitamin Ds. One is a source that we get from the sun, and one is a source that we get from food, and both of those were low in him.
Did you have any x-rays done of the part?
Yes, I did, because he said that he had pain in his legs. I ordered x-rays of his legs and also his wrist.
Okay. Tell me about the results of the x-rays.
The x-rays showed that he had osteopenia in all of his x-rays and growth arrest lines.
All right. Let's talk about osteopenia first.
Okay.
Is this common in juveniles?
It is not common.
What population is it common in?
Usually elderly white females.
And what is this condition?
Osteopenia is sort of decreased bone mineralization. So your body is not able to make new bones as fast as it is absorbing old bones.
Okay. So are bones continuously growing?
Yes. Well, for children, they're growing, but even for adults, your body makes new bone cells and destroys old bone cells. So you need calcium and vitamin D to keep that process going. And in children, that's especially significant because they're growing in height as well.
Okay. So especially in children,
Yes.
Vitamin D is more important than other populations?
For their bone growth, yes.
All right. How pervasive was this disease in his bones?
So it was noticed in all of his x-rays. So I had x-rays of the legs, the knees, and the wrist. And that osteopenia was noticed in all of those images.
Okay. Does it take a little time to develop that condition?
It does. I'm not sure how long he would be sort of, I guess, malnourished to lead to osteopenia, but it does take a while.
Were there any other contributing factors to that condition?
Yes. If you are immobilized for a long period of time, unable to do sort of weight-bearing exercises, that can also lead to increased bone destruction, decreased bone formation, which would be osteopenia.
So lack of exercise is a significant contributing factor?
Yes.
Amongst the two, which do you think is more, or is that not something you
That would be hard to say, but both contribute to it.
Did you make any prescriptions for him for further care?
I did. I prescribed vitamin D in 2 different forms, and we repeated those labs, and the vitamin D did improve.
Okay. Did you prescribe anything for the fungus?
We did. I prescribed an antifungal rash cream.
Now let's address the fatigue that he complained of. From the medical history that you obtained from him, did you develop any opinion as to why he was fatigued?
Vitamin D itself, if you're deficient in vitamin D, studies have shown that that can lead to easy fatigue. It can also lead to sort of aches and pains in different parts of the body. So that could very well explain that he was easily tired. A lack of physical activity also, once you start to re-engage in physical activity, it takes a while to build up that tolerance, so that could also explain why he was easily tired.
You indicated that x-rays showed a gross or red line on the bone. I need to kind of go back to that because
Yes.
we forgot to cover that.
Okay.
first of all, how do you see it in an x-ray and what causes it?
So radiologists can see it around the parts of the bones that are growing. There's a sort of a brighter line. It's called a growth arrest line. We notice that sometimes when there are periods of rapid bone growth followed by or preceded by a period of growth that's arrested.
Meaning no growth.
Right. So when growth is slowed down either due to malnutrition or chronic disease or some kind of infection that's causing a child to not grow, when they improve a little bit or they have some nutrition and the body tries to regrow. So it's an indicator that there was some injury in the body's bone growth.
Okay. And that was evident in these x-rays?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Mr. Wimbush, questions for the doctor?
Good morning, Dr. Husana.
Good morning.
As far as the vitamin D level, is it common for African Americans to have low vitamin D level?
It is more common for African American due to the pigmentation in their skin, but his was significantly low.
Okay. And what is the normal for, I guess?
We consider normal to be a level of 30 or higher. If you're between 25 and 30, we consider it insufficient. He was at 18, which we consider a deficiency.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Wimbush?
I missed what she said.
You can just ask her to repeat it then.
Can you repeat your answer?
Yes, I said that we consider normal vitamin D level to be 30 and above. If you are at 25 or 30, you're insufficient, and below 25, we consider that a vitamin D deficiency.
And what is a typical range for African Americans?
It can vary. I'm not sure what a typical range would be, but we would like everyone to be normal, so above 30.
So if your test differs for African Americans and Caucasian Americans, say, how do you determine what normal is?
There is not a different standard. We still consider the values that I stated above as normal values. An African American, due to the pigmentation of the skin, might have a level of 35. The upper limit of normal vitamin D could be 100. So if you're Caucasian, your level might be 50. Both are still considered normal.
Okay. And you talked about osteopenia. Well, let me go back, I'm sorry, to vitamin D. Could a lack of vitamin D be related to genetics?
I'm not familiar with many chronic genetic conditions that necessarily lead to a low vitamin D.
Okay. And when you mentioned osteopenia, you said that one of the things you look for is calcium. Did you test Ricardo's calcium level?
It was normal.
Okay. Did you test any other levels with Ricardo?
Yes, I checked his kidney functions, his liver functions. I did a CBC, which looks for signs of infection. I checked his hemoglobin to look for anemia. I checked sodium, potassium, and other electrolytes. Those were good.
Okay, so everything else was good.
Yes.
And on what day did you see him?
I
See him first?
I think whatever date is on my note, I don't know that date off the top of my head, but it's on my note.
Okay. And do you remember who brought him when you saw him?
It was a caseworker. I don't know who it was exactly.
Okay. Do you recall, based on your exam, that his general appearance was well-developed, well-nourished, interactive during exam?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Do you recall that everything in your exam was normal,
Other than the skin rash.
other than the skin rash? And where was that skin rash?
I think it was on his abdomen and back. That's what I remember.
His abdomen and his...
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where he was living when you saw him?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. But he was with a caseworker when
Yes.
when they brought him. Okay. You stated that you did a follow-up with the vitamin D after he began taking the medications. What was the level of the vitamin D after he began taking the
I
medication?
believe it was 29, so it's almost back to normal.
So it went from 18 to 29? And do you know how long of a time range that was?
I'm not sure exactly, but I had him on the vitamin D consistently until he came back to get that test repeated.
Okay, and did he remain on vitamin D while he was in your care?
I had him on vitamin D, but a lower dose afterwards.
Okay. Did you notate in any of your notes when you checked the vitamin D the second time?
I'm not sure the exact date, but it is in his lab work that it was repeated and it improved.
Okay. Did you have follow-ups on his x-rays of his bones, of
We did
his
not.
knees, legs?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Was he limping when he came to see you?
I did not see that limp.
Okay. Do you recall, let me ask you this question as a pediatrician, how often do you check vitamin D levels?
I actually check it pretty frequently with kids that have symptoms of fatigue and decreased energy, so I actually check it more frequently than we used to.
Okay, so when children complain of fatigue and low energy, do you only check vitamin D?
No, it depends on the individual cases, but I do check it.
Okay, was there a special reason why you checked it in this case?
Yes, because of his symptoms of fatigue and muscle bones and aches.
Okay, and so in other cases, do you ever notice that it could be vitamin, is it always vitamin D or is it related to other things as well?
Sometimes it's other things, but sometimes it can be vitamin D, depends on the situation.
Okay.
Sometimes it's normal, even if they have those symptoms. The vitamin D could be normal even if they have symptoms of fatigue.
Okay, do you ever notice that the calcium or any other particular levels could be low?
I mean, yes, there's different diseases that can cause, you to be tired. There's lots of diseases that can cause you to be tired, so it depends on the person's symptoms.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Mayfield?
No, Your Honor.
All right. May Dr. Hussein be excused from further testimony?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wimbush?
Yes,
Mrs. Wimbush?
I may like to recall Dr. Hussein only because I don't necessarily have the records of the new vitamin D testing.
Well, she's here now. You can ask her about it.
I did. I don't have them to try to refresh her memory.
I mean, I know the numbers. I reviewed the records yesterday. The first level was 18 and the second was 29.
Do you remember the dates?
I believe it was sometime in September, but that's part of his medical record, so it was in September that I repeated it. I don't know the exact date, but it was in September, I believe.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You're excused. Thank you.
I have just a moment, Your Honor, we're trying to, next witness is a physician. They are extremely hard to schedule. I'm going to see how far out it is.
Okay. You want everybody to remain in place, or we
She's making a call.
All right, if you need a stretch break, stand up or anything, you can do
They all
that.
have names.
And we'll determine if we can keep moving.
Your Honor, he's on, getting on 316 to 85, so that would probably put him, like, how many cars gets in the building?
All right, you don't have anybody else in the building ready yet?
That must be my last witness, yeah.
Okay, all right, the jury can go to the jury room and be at ease until we give the next witness a few minutes to arrive. I'll notify the bailiffs when the witness has arrived. All right, Mr. Mayfield, are you indicating that the state intends to rest after this next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Wimbush, that would mean that after the lunch break, you need to be ready to proceed with witnesses. Have you utilized your resources to secure the presence of witnesses beginning after the lunch break?
I believe Mr. Geary spoke with Ms. Wallace yesterday about having the children ready here.
All right, do you need an opportunity to confer with him? Because I'm going to need witnesses available immediately after the lunch break to continue the trial. So do you need a moment with Mr. Geary to confirm that?
Yes.
All right, I'll grant you that request. We need sufficient witnesses here to fill up the afternoon. I believe, and we'll probably need to put Hyatt on notice, and I can get Mr. Geary to assist me with that to make sure that all of the equipment is set up in the remote room. All right, and Ms. Wimbush, I'm just reminding you that you subpoenaed some medical physicians who I gave 24 hours on-call status. So in the event that you need medical witnesses to testify for your defense tomorrow, they need to be provided with that notice today so that they can be here.
Okay. I'd like to, before the state rests, I'd like to be able to recall Ricardo Wimbush Jr.
You can't recall any witnesses during the state's portion of the case, ma'am?
Well, for cross-examination under child hearsay.
You cannot recall a witness during the state's portion of the case, so that request is denied.
Okay. I'd also, for the children,
would you like for them to set up for them to be testifying?
Yes, any minor children that will be called to testify will be directed to the remote testimony room that's located here in GJAC in the courthouse. They will testify via video camera. Do you have someone designated to sit with the child, or do you need the court's assistance in having someone sit within camera range with the children?
Yes, I need the court's assistance.
All right, Mr. Mayfield, Ms. Wallace, Ms. Wallace, I'm certainly okay if you would like to sit in the room, or if you have a suggestion as to someone else who can be designated to sit in that remote witness room with any children witnesses.
Would it be acceptable for Kayla Mason, the current case manager, to sit with the witnesses?
I know that she is under subpoena by the defense, and so we have invoked the rule of sequestration unless both Mrs. Wimbush and Mr. Wimbush allow her to remain in that room in camera view and to come out from under the rule of sequestration solely for that purpose. If they do not consent to that, then we will need to designate someone else. Mr. Wimbush, what is your position? All right, Mrs. Wimbush, your position on the record.
The same.
All right,
Your Honor, if there is another aunt in the courtroom, she would be familiar with the children. She is not under subpoena.
what is your name, ma'am?
Philandis Wimbush,
Can you spell your first name?
PHILANDISWIMBUSH.
All right, Mr. Wimbush, is this relative, do you find this relative to be an appropriate person to sit in the witness room? Yes. Mrs. Wimbush? Yes. All right, ma'am, you will be designated as such. I'm instructing you on the record, and Ms. Wallace can instruct you more fully if needed. As the person that will be designated to sit in that room, you cannot provide any coaching or any assistance. Do not discuss any potential testimony with the children either before, during, or after their testimony. You will be seated in the room in camera range, but you are not to provide any assistance whatsoever to the child during their testimony. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions? If you could come forward, please, to the podium, just so that we can hear you. I'm sorry, because I can't hear you.
If one of the children emotionally were allowed to touch them.
No, ma'am. You are to remain there, and the court can address any issues such as that arise. And if you're volunteering to do it, I need you to not display any emotion to the best of your ability. That could persuade the jury one way or the other. So do you feel like you are a suitable person to handle that? All right, so Ms. Wallace will assist you with getting to the appropriate location in the courthouse when the time is necessary. Thank you. Other than that, we can be at ease in the courtroom, or if you need a short recess.
If you want to go into another matter, as long as we have a little bit of downtime.
Sure.
You asked me earlier about addressing the children's testimony. Your Honor, I'm not going to file a motion to prevent their testimony. There are things that they were witnesses to. They were witnesses to him being locked in the room. They were witnesses to Isaiah's medical condition. So, therefore, the state recognizes them as appropriate witnesses. However, the state will reemphasize its motion in limine, particularly when it comes to relevance. Your Honor, of course, let's say that just as an example, an armed robbery and a store clerk is shot. It's not a defense to say, I didn't shoot the other store clerk. So it is irrelevant how the other children were treated, what their life was like, what their education was like, what their diet was like. None of that is relevant to Isaiah and Ricardo Jr. So I'm just asking the court to enforce the motion in limine. And furthermore, nothing is relevant concerning after these children were taken into DFAC's custody about their diet, about the fact that they saw physicians. None of that will be relevant to to the criminal case for
Then you
defendant's
mean
action.
the children other than Ricardo and
Children
Isaiah?
other than Ricardo and Isaiah. None of that is possibly relevant, and I'm just asking the court to enforce the motion in limine that the court has granted in those regards.
All right, and so at this time, I do note and acknowledge your motion on the record, but of course, it would be premature for me to make any specific rulings. I will rule on a case-by-case basis, but each of the Wimbushes are to heed the court's prior inclinations on the record of what is relevant and what is not relevant regarding the questioning of all the minor child witnesses other than Ricardo Jr. and Isaiah. Other than that, I will rule, and you'll need to renew your motion at the appropriate time.
I will do so, Your Honor.
Any questions as to the court's position and Mr. Mayfield's request at this time? Mr. Wimbush? Mrs. Wimbush? All right, very good. All right, if either of you wish to go to the holding cell to work on anything during this recess while we're waiting, you can do so if that's your request, or to confer with standby counsel. Otherwise, you can remain seated at the table.